Hi, I'm Adela Maria Giri and I graduated with UCLA's class of 2021. I majored in English and had a minor in education, and I most recently have been working as Christian Education social media manager. I am beyond excited to show you what a day in my life at UCLA looked like. A typical day in my life at UCLA was me getting up in my dormitory, walking down Bruin Walk, and picking up 10 million flyers, stopping and getting some coffee and breakfast to bring to my class, because a really cool thing about college is most classes you can eat and drink in there. And then I would go to my classes. Oftentimes you'll have gaps between your classes when you try to fit them on the same day. So I would come to Powell and either play Town of Salem on the computer in the computer lab, or I would pick out books and read. To this day, I still owe a library book, so please nobody contact UCLA. Really, I mostly got to spend my first 2 years here. My third year was interrupted by the pandemic, so it's really nice to be back. I chose UCLA because it was close to home, within a drive, and that was something that was really important to me, was being close to my family and being able to visit them and vice versa. I also really love the culture here. I had visited other universities, and UCLA, when you see a UCLA student talk or you meet one, there's just always good vibes. So I definitely think that part of my decision was made based off of vibes, and my vibes were not wrong. We are on the steps on the way to Powell Library and Royce Hall. So usually when you go to Powell Library, you're going to want to check out some books or study. I would always go to the computer lab because it's like in the middle of all your other classes, whether you're South Campus in STEM or North Campus studying humanities. For Royce Hall, I had an education class there, so I'm assuming that's more of a humanities building. I had a major in English and a minor in education. I chose English because I knew that I loved literature. I was reading like a book a day in high school. It's one of the things I wrote about on my college application essays. And I know that English is also an extremely flexible major. You can do a ton of it. I even knew some kids in my English class who were going to go to med school after that. You can be a lawyer, marketing, etc. Education was more of a personal thing. I really care about equity for all when it comes to education and equal access to resources. So that's kind of how I came to choose that. The requirements weren't too bad, honestly. I actually was going for a double major in English and education, but education is actually like the newest major. So at the time, I was not allowed to do a double major because you could only apply if you were like a sophomore, and I was already a third year. So it was like impossible, sadly, which is why it's a minor in it. So we are in a quarter system, which some people love and some people hate. Essentially, every class is like 3 months long, and that means like your finals and like your midterms in like a month and a half. So definitely mixed reviews, but it also means if you hate that class, you're done in like 3 months. For requirements, as an English major, I did have to take some science courses, which was definitely a bit difficult. But honestly, it was really fun to kind of see how STEM students study, you know? So that was pretty cool. And I made a lot of STEM friends that I would not have made had I only been taking my English classes for my entire 4 years here. We are at the John Wooden Center, which is the gym at UCLA. If you go upstairs, there's like a brand new UCLA Esports Center where people get to train for our esports teams. So that's super exciting. That was done about 2-3 years ago. So with esports, we have a ton of different games. It's basically a gaming community. We play in games such as League of Legends, Valorant, Rocket League, and we essentially just get to play competitively, and we also have a community side aspect where you get to just play for fun and make friends. Outside of class, I worked for UCLA Parking. Prior to that, I worked for a cafe on campus near the Research Center, and I also helped write articles for UCLA Esports. I come from a low-income family, so there were times that I had to focus on working ahead of studying or attending club events. But at the end of the day, I think it's really figuring out what you have to do to make your uni experience work. And it's just individual to individual. The advice I would give to a student applying to UCLA is, number one, just apply. I almost didn't apply because I looked online and saw that my GPA wasn't quite as high as the average GPA. My test scores weren't quite as high. But ultimately, universities are accepting individuals, not just numbers on a paper. So I would say to believe in yourself, back yourself, apply to the university you want to apply to, and really just be the most genuine version of you on your college essays. I wish before going to college that I had known that your grades and what you get involved in, it does matter. Throughout high school, there was this whole narrative of just get to that top university and you're done, you're set for life. But I realized later on that, hey, I might want to do grad school, I might want to do XYZ, and suddenly those options were limited because I had been like, C's get degrees kind of vibe. But by really pushing yourself and joining those clubs, getting things on your resume, performing well academically, that's how you set yourself up to have options after you graduate. So that's definitely something I wish that I had known before I went here. I know that I wrote about my love for storytelling, whether it be through reading or watching movies or telling stories to my younger siblings. I also know that there was a leadership question, and I used that question to talk about my dynamic with my younger siblings and how I learned a lot from being there for them while my mother was at work, and how we learned a lot from each other and how that gave me a lot of lessons on how to be a leader. So I know that that was a really good way to kind of share who I was without talking about I was president of X Club. If you like this video, want to learn more about top colleges like UCLA, make sure to hit the subscribe button.